When creating an application in C#, you will often need to perform various text-related operations. This means you will want to verify whether a given string contains a specific sequence of characters, swap characters, remove or modify them, check the index of a searched character, and so on. There are indeed many possibilities. I will introduce you to 19 string methods that you need to know. Familiarity with these will certainly be very useful in your work when developing an application in C#. Hello, this is Kazimierz Spin. Welcome to the Code with Kazik channel, where I demonstrate how to effectively learn programming and become a successful programmer. The first method is string is null or white space. This means checking whether the provided string is null, an empty string, or white space. We can also display a null message here, for example. If our string is null, an empty string, or white space, this message will be displayed here. Of course, in our case, it was not displayed because the string has a value. However, if we were to pass another string here that was just a space, you would notice that in this case, the message would be displayed. And of course, we can also use negation here, meaning we want the code to execute if this string has some value. So that's the first method. The second method is converting text into a list, which is done using the split method. We just need to specify what character separates the elements of our list, so we can create a new list here. Let's call it words, and we'll call my string split and pass the character by which these elements should be separated. And notice that if we now iterate over our words list using a for each loop, we can display the individual elements. So I'm running the application now, and notice that Jan, Małgorzata, Kowalski, and Jedynka have been displayed here. Thus, our string has been converted into a list. The third method, that is string join, which is an operation in the opposite direction, meaning converting a list into text and specifying what character should separate these elements. So we can call string join. We will indicate that we want these elements to be separated by a semicolon this time, and that this method should be executed on the list, words. That is, the list we created earlier, and what will be returned from this method will be assigned again to our variable myString. Then we will display the value here. Control F5 and notice that we have the same string that was at the beginning, only instead of a comma, this time we have a semicolon. Great. The fourth method, which is removing white space from the beginning and end of the string. To do this, we can use the trim method on our string. However, what is important here is that if we call a method on a string, a new instance of our string will be created at this point. So if we displayed the value of our string here, there would still be those white space characters at the front and back. Yes, as you can see, we have a space at the front and a space at the back. So if we run the application now, we will notice that these characters do not disappear. Only when we assign what is returned from this method to our string will a new string be created and assigned to our string. Thus, only then will these changes be applied. As you can see, there is no space now. The fifth method is to remove white spaces, but this time from the beginning of our string. To do this, we need to call the trim start method. Similarly, we have the trim end method, which will remove all white spaces from the end of the string. So, our string, trim end, and likewise, a new string will be created in each case when we call these methods on strings. The seventh method is to convert all characters to lowercase, and we can do this using the toLower method. We can also assign this back to our string and display it here, and notice that all letters are now lowercase. The eighth method is to convert all characters this time to uppercase. So our string equals our string to upper, and notice that all letters have also been changed to uppercase. The ninth method, replace, means replacing a character that will be passed as the first parameter, so we can replace a semicolon with a character that is passed as the second parameter, which in this case means replacing all semicolons with all commas. We will also assign this to my string, and below we will display the current value, and notice that again all semicolons have been replaced with commas. The 10th method is indexOf, which in our case is myString.indexOf, where we can get the index of the searched character in the string. If it is not in the string, it will return -1. We can now check at what index the comma is in our case, and it should return 3, because we trim it above, meaning we remove the space, and we have 0, 1, 2, 3. So here it should display 3, which is the index of the comma. Great, everything matches. Similarly, we can retrieve the last index of the searched character. To do this, we will use the last index of method, and here we can also display the comma to see at which position the last comma is located, which is at the 23rd index. The 12th method, substring, means extracting letters from a string, starting from a given index for a specified length. In our case, we can try to extract the word Małgorzata, starting from the 4th index. We pass the index from which we start and specify the length of the string we want to retrieve, which in this case is the entire word, meaning 10 characters. So we want to get 10 characters starting from the 4th index. Let's see what will be retrieved. And as you can see, we successfully retrieved the word Małgorzata, which consists of characters from our string starting from the 4th index and the next 10 characters. The 13th method is the insert method, which adds a given value to a string at a specified index. Let's say we want to add a value, let's call it x, at the beginning of our string, which is index 0. We also need to assign this value to the string, Ctrl F5, and notice that x has been added here. Just like adding new characters, we can also remove these characters, and to do that, we need to use the remove method. Here, we pass the index and then specify how many letters from our string should be removed, and we can assign this back to our string, which should display the word Małgorzata. So first we added x, and then we removed our x from this position. The 15th method starts with, checks whether our string starts with a given character or value. Here we can input x and check if our string starts with this x. A new Boolean variable, starts with x, is created, and we can display its value. In our case, it should display false, and indeed that is what happens. Besides checking what character our string starts with, we can also check what character it ends with. So we can verify, for example in our case, whether it ends with x. Okay, and here we assign it to a new Boolean variable. Ends with x equals this method call. Great. We can display the result here, and similarly, it should be false. However, if it were a, then it would be true. The 17th method, which is contains, means checking if our string contains the given character. So if we pass, for example, a here, we can verify if our string contains the letter a. Okay? And we will display the result below, and of course it should be true. Great. And that is indeed what happens. The 18th method is the pad.left method, which indicates the length of the string. If the string has fewer characters, it gets filled with the provided value from the left side. So for example, if we want our string to have 20 characters, and if it doesn't have 20 characters, we want it to be filled with zeros from the left side. Okay, we will display the value of this string, and notice here on the left side our word has been padded with zeros, so that the total length is 20 characters. The 19th method is the pad_right method, which works the same way as before, but it pads the letters on the right side. This means that if our string has fewer than 20 characters, it will be padded to make it 20 characters long, with zeros added on the right side. So now our string has 20 characters, with zeros padded on the right side. This is the 19 methods that I think are worth knowing. So once again, string is null or white space. Next, split, join, trim, trim start, trim end, to lower, to upper, replace, index off, last index off, substring, insert, remove, starts with, ends with, contains, pad left, pad right. So those were 19 string methods that I think are worth knowing. Of course, you don't have to memorize them. If you need to use them, you can just refer to the documentation. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this film, be sure to join my community, where you'll also have access to exclusive additional materials and, most importantly, fantastic special bonuses. The registration link is located in the description box below the video. See you in the next episode.